My name is Ibrahim Mahama. I'm a visual artist from northern Ghana, Tamale to be specific. I've basically been interested in expanding the existing questions of art within the context of Ghana and globally. So I've been collecting objects, materials, looking at the history of Ghana, different moments of crisis and failure, and trying to see how we can borrow elements from it. So it's very material based. Purple Hibiscus is a large-scale textile piece, which we started a production, I think, mid-2023. The idea was to produce this textile piece which would envelop the facade of the Barbican. So the work mostly looks into the labor systems of the production of the work itself, because everything on this particular work has been done by hand. I borrowed the idea from these batakaris and textiles that are traditionally woven and worn in northern Ghana. Batakari is a traditional garment. It used to be made for royalty, and then subsequently it was just made for commonplace, like everyone can own one. And I've always been very much interested in them due to the histories that they carry, particularly the ones that have been woven and worn by people and passed on from one generation to the other. They were very difficult to access because these are not materials that are given away like that, because it's very much tied to people's histories, their pride and everything. So for instance, if my grandfather has it, he passes it on to his father passes it on to you. And when the material breaks, they have an interesting way of repatching it, and most often they don't even wash it, because when you take it, you realize that there are all these interesting stains within them. So the body fluids, the sweat and everything is attached onto it. So people feel like it's an extension of their body. Their soul is somehow encapsulated within the fabric. For me as an artist, I think, oh, that's really cool. That's exciting, because then now it's adding more history, more color, more texture. So it gives this materials this kind of versatility. And then combine it, for instance, with a building like the Barbican. It opens up all these new visual aesthetics and forms. The work is basically made up of these synthetic cotton fibers. We give pieces to all the weavers in Tamale, and they wove bits and pieces of it. And then afterwards, we had to assemble a team of weavers, sewers, women and men, and we had to sew it across different open spaces within the city. And then eventually to the stadium, where we were making these large sheets. So basically taking these tiny strips that we had woven and then trying to join them together. And it's very repetitive. It's like, of course, it's a cloth. So at the end of the day, when we were done with making the large sheets, then we had to take time to then cut it to be able to fit onto the building here. And then after that was done, then we now wove the batakaris and everything onto it according to the different parts of the building. Every section is made specifically for the Barbican. And also it's a very slow, painful work, because it's a huge amount of material which you have to sew together with a very thin thread nylon that keeps it strong and everything. It's almost like the Barbican has grown a new skin. The skin is quite interesting because this building, because of the brutalist nature and the history of how it was made, after the concrete was cast, they took time to chip off the surface of the concrete, which revealed the chippings which somehow form the base structure of the concrete. And you don't see it that much very often. I want to take away attention from, though the individual materials are important to me, but I want to be able to now create a new context where, because it's art that we're dealing with at this point, we're looking at the entity, the much bigger entity. A lot of work that I've done over the years have been very sublime. You know, and then you have to look closer, and then you have to ask yourself, why this material so strained? Like, there's so much, it's rugged. But with this work, the moment you see it, you cannot take your eyes off it. Yeah, it's very strong. I'm curious to see the final form that the work takes. But for me, some of the most exciting moments was the production of the work itself. The idea of combining all these different elements, because we literally worked with at least 1,000 people to produce this piece. Well, it's quite exciting to see the work at this form. It's almost as I imagined it when I did the first sketch. I remember when I first came here beginning of last year, and I took a picture of the building, and then I put it on my iPad, and then I made a drawing on top of it, and then with the color and everything. I was just thinking about how would this look, because I've never produced a work with this kind of color pattern and form before, you know. So it was quite interesting. But now seeing like the climbers like going on top of the building, going down, up and down, sewing and stitching the different parts together, I was quite nervous about it, but it's come out so beautifully, honestly. Yeah, much more than I anticipated in the beginning. Yeah, for the very longest period, all the work that I've always done have always been very monochromatic, you know, because it's always very dark with the jute sacks and everything. And I thought, for the first time, why not do something quite wild and brilliant, like especially within the UK, because you need it. You need something very bright outside. Maybe it will call upon the sun to come out or something like that.